Hello, Internet. This is Competent Council, and once again, this is new week, a new episode. As usual, I'm Hafiz, and I'm with.
And I'm Adi, and we are going to be delving into quite a few main current issues. But before that, I think we just want to wish everyone on behalf of Copenhagen Council, because I think by the time you're listening to this, Hari Gawai and Kamatan will be in full swing. So selamat Hari Kamatan and selamat Hari Gawai to all Sabahans and Sarawakians.
Yes, for those who are also recently just celebrating Vesak Day, so happy belated Vesak Day. And a little bit outside off track from what we usually talk about. Congratulations to Manchester City fans for winning the league title. Liverpool fans for the Carabao Cup, and of course Manchester United for the Emirates Cup or the FA Cup. So that's just want to get that out of the way. Real Madrid and Dortmund will be coming this. So many, yes. Other than just like one team hogging all the cups and trophies, right? Two more serious stuff. If you're not, let's go ahead with what should we talk about first, Adi.
Okay, so I think this one I want to bring up because we like to talk about current affairs internationally. I think we've been talking a lot on domestic issues recently. So I think let's just go on something more international. And this comes at a very interesting time. About a week ago, a helicopter that was just north of the Iranian city of Tabriz in south of Azerbaijan went down, was crash landed, carrying the president of Iran, Ebrahim Raisi, alongside other major officials such as the foreign minister and the governor of Azerbaijan province. This is in Iran, by the way, not in Azerbaijan. It's a funny thing, I know, but that is what Iran calls that province. So this is quite a shock. I think it led to a lot of different theories being thrown around. And I think what is important, this really changes the dynamic of Iran's political system, because we'd like to talk about Iran now and then. We kind of highlighted how a complex political system and style that they run themselves in. It's not really like how we do it here in Malaysia. But at the same time, it's not like a lot of other dictatorships. It is a religious clerical element to it. At the same time, there's a democratic element to it. So Iran's president is democratically elected. So this leaves a 50-day period within the Iranian constitution whereby they need to have presidential elections coming up. So it'll be very interesting to see. We like to cover elections here. So Iran is unexpectedly now on the radar once again.
Yeah, definitely. This is happening in the background that, worst tension between Iran and Middle East country, not just Israel particularly, but I think surrounding as well. I think a month ago during the Ramadan month, we were talking about how the Israel and Iran exchange rockets actually. So and then escalate into something that I don't know if this is a repercussion of that incident. Adi, very interestingly that you mentioned, because in the constitution of Iran that there should be election for that within 50 days. The new development is that the former president of Iran, Mohammad Ahmadinejad, also says that he would run again for this. So I don't know if this is something, because during his time, Ahmadinejad, Iran was seen as very put forward, he's very vocal with what he was that he want to do. Some sort of like very out of the bunch. What do you say? Like quite resilient man. Like he would. Yes, this is a bunch of Iranians, right? Like you can expect on someone coming from on the other spectrum, but from a bunch of presidents of Iran, he's very good in the eye of the other world, because Iran quite engaging with other countries at the time. Now this is a junction, I think, for the supreme leader Ali Khamenei, so that because his successor to be the spiritual leader, supreme leader of the Iran, Ayatollah Iran. So I think this is more of bad news for one individual rather than for because Ebrahim Raisi, make no mistake, this is one of the most hated men in Iran, especially his nickname is the Butcher of Tehran. So that name alone means that he responsible killing. Yes, he carried orders by whatever president at the time, but same like Prabowo during 1998, where he was responsible for the few Indonesian students who died during the protest as well. So this is not just a protest, but to actually deliberately killing all these political prisoners at the time. So it was a horrendous time in Iran, and those who are in their teens now can still remember their uncles, their fathers that were killed by Iran. So no prayers for people like Ebrahim Raisi, but it doesn't justify, even though who may have the intention to kill him, whether Mossad or any other external factor. A loss of a soul is a loss of a soul dearly.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned up Ibrahim Raisi's nickname, the Butcher of Tehran. It's very interesting. Like, for a bit of context, is during the 1980s, a lot of political activists, a lot of political opponents of the Iran government was massacred, was killed, jailed, imprisoned, all kinds of horrible things were done to them. And it was all committed by Ebrahim Raisi, who at the time was still a revolutionary in his own right. But it's interesting because when I see that a lot of people tend to have forgot this fact here. I've seen our own Prime Minister say very good things about the late president, and I think this is not. I mean, I guess it is very standard to wish condolences and all that, but if there is that sense of familiarity, I think this is sending a very weird message, a very mixed message, considering that, like I mentioned, this person is one, has committed crimes against its own people, and at the same time, a very unremarkable president, to be honest. He has overseen a lot of very troubling times for Iran. Like, it was during his tenure that we saw the whole riot sparking over the death of Mahsa Amini, the girl who was suffered police brutality for not wearing hijab. So she died under mysterious circumstances and most people suspect that it was the moral, spiritual police of Iran that committed such a thing. And that created a huge spark of protest, which I think we covered about 2-3 years ago during the whole MCO days. It was during COVID, I think, at the time. This is the person that happened here. Most people, like you mentioned, it wasn't a huge there wasn't a huge reaction from the Iranian people. I think what happened was quite expected of the Iranian people. Now, here's the thing I want to say is because Qasem Soleimani, who is was the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps leader, which is like a splinter group of the military, which kind of answers directly to the supreme leader and other higher officials. He received a bigger turnout for his funeral compared to the president. So this kind of tells us that this person is not exactly the most popular individual in Iran. Not to mention that during he has lost the previous presidential election to Ahmadinejad. I believe it was that time. And then many speculated that he only won the presidency for this tenure, his last tenure, only because of a few unscrupulous things that was happening behind the scenes, because this person was seen to be sort of like the successor to the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. So it's a bit of a surprise turn here when it comes to how now that there's a vacuum left to fill. But now it's more or less that whoever becomes the president is kind of a good shot to becoming the next supreme leader. Now, why we're talking about the next supreme leader is because the current supreme leader is about 85 years old. He hasn't been in the best of health. Recently, he's 85 years old, which is above the average life expectancy of the average Iranian. So at any time, anything could happen. I'm not wishing the worst on him, but at the same time, this is put at a very pivotal moment for Iran. The successor to the supreme leader is gone, completely gone, and that has sort of changed up the succession plan. So I don't know how the 12 clerical leaders, the other ayatollahs, would come to decide to find the next candidate, the next replacement. So, of course, there are a few names to bring up. Moving that on, Hafiz, what do you think the future of Iran's supreme leader seat?
Well, like I mentioned just now, it's going to be a chaotic scene for the Ali Khamenei to pick his successor. But more importantly, that in any authoritarian system, Adi, the leader will reveal itself. So I think whoever benefited from this murder, if there were a plot to do such, and a direct beneficiary is someone in the faction. I think we're gonna see people moving forward towards this, and Ali Khamenei can't help much. But like you said, he is not in the best of health, so there's a lot of things on his plate, and I think maybe before this, before the helicopter crash, maybe the priority of selecting a successor could be his number 10 of priority. Now it's going to jump up to the top one, so that he can see the legacy that he proceed over how many years he ruled the country will not go to waste for just go to into wrong hand, so to speak. So I think like I mentioned also with the in the picture now, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad wants to be in the president. I think this make a new wave for other people as well who wants to challenge this, especially like you mentioned the Amini case or whatever. There's a lot of uprising coming up, so maybe the opposition also, like whoever that try to oppose this, wants to find a strike balance of a good timing so that they could somehow not topple, because I don't think other, unless you have a good military prowess, you can topple Ayatollah Khamenei, but actually like some sort of give a Trojan horse maybe to the and then maybe someone in favor of Ayatollah Khamenei would be the president. So because what happened in the past is just, make no mistake that the president Ebrahim Raisi is a president, but the what they call is, this is just a puppet leader. The one that actually make the call is the supreme leader. So despite the title president or whatnot, whatever, again, it's still too early to tell who is going to be the next president. But what I'm formulating here is just there will be a candidate that's gonna be some kind of against the narrative here, someone that, because they wants to write on this uprising in Iran, that's some message that's along the line of enough is enough. So that's how I would see in Iran.
I think for me here is that when it comes to the issue of succession, like you said, Ahmadinejad would like to put his name back up, and he was considered a bit of a maverick during his tenure. He tended to do things a lot on his own. He did sort of things which weren't really typical or expected of a Iranian president. So usually the Iranian president tends to toe the line of what policies or what direction the supreme leader sets out. Now you said, in a way, a puppet figure, but Ahmadinejad kind of sets himself apart from that. But I think him and, let's say, like Rouhani, who was the former president, who was also kind of a moderate in his own way, I think in a way I wouldn't count exactly, me personally, on their comeback, because I think in the past recent years they've fallen quite a bit out of favor by the supreme leader, and I think the more conservative elites have kind of pushed them a bit outside of the sphere of relevance here. What I would like to point out here is that one other candidate which has a shot at it is the supreme leader's own son, Mojtaba Khamenei. He himself is a veteran of the Iran-Iraq war. He's also an Ayatollah. He also has the title of Ayatollah, and he has also the credentials and prerequisites of the clerics would like to see when it comes to becoming a spiritual leader. But I think his only issue right now is that the clerical council, which is like basically you have the supreme leader, and then you have a council of clerics who have deliberate on the next supreme leader. They do not want to see a dynastic and hereditary succession. They would like to see someone else. They try to avoid any kind of dynasty building or any kind of hereditary succession system in favor for that it can rotate among different groups of people. But the incumbent president, Mohammad, he also I might have a chance, but for me, he is more like a, how do you say, administrator, a bureaucrat, someone that's more about getting things done behind the scenes and not really someone that wants to play the whole web of palace intrigue or court politics that has come to define Iranian politics. So, but he has enriched many people through his connections as a bureaucrat and as a businessman. So hard to say who else might be. Ahmadinejad, like you said, Rouhani, maybe Mojtaba. He does have the support of the Revolutionary Guard Corps, and it's usually said that if you hold the military, you can get a lot of things done. We can look at the same example in Pakistan, where the military holds a lot of main power, but they never transferred it over. But in Iran, the power is very intertwined with the supreme leader. So a lot of things could happen. But I think, right, whoever wins the election, um, it's hard to say if much will change because, like I said, the president tends to toe the line of the supreme leader. If it's someone that is not a radical than a moderate, then I think they would still toe the line here. I think Ahmadinejad was a bit of an oddball in a way. He was a bit cut about a different cloth. So maybe that was the furthest we could see when it comes to going beyond the moderate line here. So anyone I think is more radical than a moderate that becomes a president, which is a very hard thing to. It's going to be an uphill battle, to be honest. They would either find difficulty later on challenging the supreme leader's stances and policies, but at the same time, if it's someone who is, like I said, moderate or more closer to the conservatives, which the clerics really like and the elites really like, then I think it'll just be another Ebrahim Raisi in a way, another Rouhani in a way that's more or less similar.
Yeah, you mentioned about Mojtaba just now. I think it would be a huge mistake if Mojtaba would be elected the president because he is very, very green. He is very inexperienced in terms of never hold any big government officials position. So and also he is not tested in terms of his popularity. Yes, he's known as the sun, but as we know in Malaysia, it doesn't translate to your political popularity. So especially in Iran, I think same logic would apply. So in terms of that, I think it would be a grave mistake for him to be. But again, people might say that hey, Indonesia could do it. A vice president of 36-year-old, they could have it. So I guess again, maybe I'm wrong in that sense as well. So maybe he is, even though he's very young and inexperienced, but learning directly from your father is one of the unfair advantage that he has. Another thing that I would like to talk about that Iran, like the world will be looking at this, especially the region as well, because any instability, internal factions that's happening in Iran would translate into how foreign policy towards Iran in the region as well. So like how we see Iran plays a lot of proxies in the Middle East that shape the conflict that we know of now and still ongoing, which is the Israel and Palestine. So any call for these proxies, whatever comes from the supreme leader, comes from the president, and whoever becomes the president, like you said, they going in favor or in favor of the supreme leader, that would be interesting to see. So that's pretty much looking forward for that.
Yeah, so I think one thing people want to know is what actually happened. Who did it? Was it really, as they say, bad weather owing to bad weather? Because this stuff was covered up for at least a day or two. It took them 1 or 2 days for them to finally announce it on Iranian television. I mean, the circumstances kind of are very funny, like considering the people that were on board, and considering that there is a major conflict happening beyond Iran's borders, both beyond and within. So I think we should address the elephant in the room. I think the first person to point, any logical person would point, is that this was Mossad, this was Israel attack. But what do you think of this?
Okay, the only way that I can see that's happening, being done by Mossad, is the modus operandi reminds me of how Osama bin Laden died. I don't know, like more than a decade ago. Like, remember how he was killed in his house, Osama bin Laden, but then he was buried in the open sea for that kind of and America, she just mentioned, like, the body is buried in the sea, like, there's no picture whatsoever. Similarly, with something like this, like you said, like, it took a good 48 hours for the an official announcement to say that he is pronounced dead. It's unimaginable that in today's world where information transfer very fast, that long it's needed. I think there's some sort of like a cover up also being done, and there might be within the first few hours it happened, maybe there's a struggle between how they want to conceal all this and whatnot, but of course there's some leakage of footage somewhere. So in a way, yes, the how it happened, I think it reminded me of how CIA did it. So of course, CIA, Mossad, they would share intel and how they do it. Then apart from that, I don't see why would Israel benefit from this directly. A die of one individual figure, especially even the president. Like, if you want to change dramatically, why don't kill the supreme leader, as we know? So I think in that sense, that's only. What do you think, Adi? Is there any
Yeah, I
reason
think
why would Mossad?
I would agree here. I mean, a lot of people like to point at Israel here, but I think, like you said, Israel doesn't really benefit from this exactly. If you, like you said, if they want to, might as well cut off the head of the snake, which is the supreme leader. If you're capable of doing so with the president, then you could do the same thing with the supreme leader himself or any other political opponent which might who's younger, who might rise up to take on a more radical approach. I mean, Ibrahim Raisi himself was, I don't know if he was his idea or was it the supreme leader's idea to launch the missiles, because the military is under the purview of the supreme leader, but the president could have influenced the supreme leader to do so. We don't really know that, and I don't know if Mossad knows that as well. But like you said, in terms of benefit, there's not much gain here that makes a lot of sense. If you want, you could have taken out, like I said, the supreme leader. You could have taken out another council representative. You could have taken out some of the IRGC leaders as well. So maybe it doesn't really attribute to a lot of foul play here, but I think we're going to just entertain it for the sake of debate here, because we talked about the other potential candidates that were involved here, like Mujtaba, Ahmadinejad, but this is very awkward because I think even Mujtaba knows that the clerical elite wouldn't want hereditary succession or dynasty building, right? So that would block out any kinds of ambitions. Ahmadinejad, I don't think he would have the influence or even the capacity to order a hit or assassination. And I think if people want to say that this is an inside job somehow, that the supreme leader is out of favor, like does not favor Ibrahim Raisi anymore, it's very awkward because on board the helicopter was Ayatollah Ali Hashem, who is a personal representative of the supreme leader. So why would you want to eliminate someone that has been very loyal to you when loyalty is at a premium for Iranian politics? So unless he told him to be a martyr and then do your duty, but it's very awkward also, to say the least. And I don't think, and there will be enemies because, like I mentioned, the governor of East Azerbaijan province was also on board alongside the foreign minister. These are people who never really had that many political ambitions, who are even involved that much with politics. I mean, a lot of things can be dispelled. I'm not ruling out the idea that maybe there is foul play, but there are a lot of just as many counter arguments to it as well. So maybe this really was the fault of the weather, because Ali Hashem, who was on the plane, he made a phone call as the helicopter crashed. Apparently, he got stuck in some trees, and then he made a phone call telling he doesn't know where he is. There was a crash. He doesn't know what's going on. And then 4 hours later, he died. He passed away. I think either expired from his injuries or from the climate, because this was a very mountainous area. It was very treacherous climate as well. So it's maybe this really could have just been a freak accident, but an accident coming at a very turbulent time, at a very crucial time for the Middle East. So I think I would agree with you here, is that there's not you hard to attribute foul play in a lot of this, when there are things that better you can do. Like, if really Mossad wants to take out the Supreme wants to take out something important, right? Why go for the president? Why not the Supreme Leader? Or why not go for Hamas, which shields themselves in Qatar, which is very open for people to travel into, very, I would say, easy to infiltrate. So
Yeah, I think another so-called the possible cause of this crash is that people says that because of lacking of spare parts to maintain the helicopter. Now, I would like to rebut this argument because I would say because of sanctions, so there was no sort of clear way to get the spare parts. All this helicopter from the US. Okay, for first and foremost, like you don't use a helicopter that is half cooked or ferry your president into this whatever official duty or whatnot. Second of all, Russian doesn't work for Iran. I mean, Iran, Russia, North Korea, for this sort of big country. The simple reason is because they can only bypass it. Like for example, in Russia, when they started launching attack to Ukraine, and then US started sanctioning Russia, pulling out all their American company, satellite countries around Russia in the next 3 months had a jump of export and import of items from US and other countries where conveniently Russia is sanctioned from. In that sense, like we can see like how Russia used all this country, Kazakhstan's or even Azerbaijan, Georgia, so this country as a recipient or their port, so that they can bypass the sanction. Like, yeah, of course, they're not gonna export and import something very trivial or something like a furniture, whatever, but they would use this for something very crucial. Let's say for food, something that they need to secure, or some things like this that they cannot source anywhere else. So spare parts, all this, if they need not just for aviation, military purposes as well. So that's my argument. Like, I don't buy that because of the poor maintenance due to sanction that Iran is having. I think Iran could have just used their proxies, whatever, to get the parts, or even get a better service from the Russian help to just for this. So if there were technicality, if I don't know, maybe in 2 months there will be reports of audit of why the helicopter fell or crashed. Maybe let's say there's a technical error. Maybe it's just faulty parts that's coincidentally, it's gonna happen anyway. Like, you don't need a sanction for that to happen, especially if it's produced by Boeing. We do talk about Boeing and SpaceX the other day, so you might want to check out that episode. So yeah, not necessarily agreeing with the spare parts cost.
I think definitely there's a lot to be said on a lot of factors of why something like this is happening. The assassination, faulty parts, lack of maintenance, maybe, or even procedure protocol, or whatever it is. It has really thrown Iran in a very precarious situation, one that is very unexpected for most of the people in the region and within Iran itself. So we're definitely going to be covering more on this as the elections start to ramp up. We expect it to be on the June 28th. It could be delayed even further, but the constitution states that has to be done within 50 days. So we are interested to see what kind of candidates will be put up, what the presidential cycle would be like, the election cycle turn up, and what are the people that would we want to say, like what kind of candidate they want to say is going to be selected here. Obviously, mobilizing most of Iran to vote is a very tall order, is a very huge undertaking because the country is just so vast. It's huge, and there's so many remote places in Iran, throughout Iran itself. So very interesting to see how it'll maneuver. And not before I forget, what kind of foreign interference would we see? Because I'm sure this is something that Israel, as horrible as they are, will capitalize on alongside America as well, their allies, and also Saudi Arabia as well. Don't forget, Saudi Arabia is also part of the same coalition with Israel and America in trying to oppose Iran for regional dominance. So let's not forget that there's so many parties involved here, many interested parties, and we would see how they would like to put forth their interest in this election cycle.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, we're gonna revisit this topic again once we, have a lot of development happening, maybe 3 or 6 months down the line. And that's it for this topic about Iran president's helicopter crash. And next up, Adi, we're gonna go back to Malaysia, talking about something that we announced by Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim just 7 days ago. So stay tuned for that.